The Department of Education said Sunday it partnered with the National Telecommunications Commission for the airing of educational programs through television and radio, as in-person classes remain postponed in the coming school year due to the coronavirus pandemic. In a statement, the DepEd said it sought help from NTC Commissioner Gamaliel Cordoba to ask television, radio, and cable operators to broadcast educational materials and instructions when the school year starts in August. The department is determined to strengthen education delivery through television, whether it is through commercial broadcast TV networks, free channels, government-owned TV stations, and even cable TV networks, Education Undersecretary Elaine Del Pasquier said. Cordoba issued a memorandum last June 22, reminding TV and radio network operators of the public service obligations mandated in their franchises, which requires them to assist in the functions of public information and education. In another June 22 memorandum, Cordoba reminded cable TV operators that they are required to provide an access channel to education entities for free, as a public service feature of the cable television system. The Presidential Communications Operations Office earlier said the DepEd may use state-run television and radio stations to air educational programs as part of the agency's distance learning plan. State-run TV, radio stations to air programs for distance learning. PCOO. When classes start in August, schools will also be using online platforms and printed and digital modules to deliver lessons to students at home. In-person classes are postponed until a vaccine against COVID-19 is available to avoid students, teachers and school personnel from contracting the respiratory illness. President Rodrigo Duterte said he was eyeing to procure transistor radios to help deliver lessons to poor students in far-flung areas. Roxanne Baeyens of Baguio City is Miss Philippines Earth 2020. Roxanne succeeded Miss Philippines Earth 2019 Janelle T on Sunday, July 5 during pageant finals, which was telecast on GMA7. This is the first time for Miss Philippines Earth to hold a pageant online and remotely. It's also one of the first local pageants to push through with its finals, after the country was placed on lockdown because of the coronavirus pandemic. This year's overall theme is Eco Angels. The winners of the other titles are Miss Philippines Air, Patricia Santos, Daraga, Albay Miss Philippines Fire, Shane Torms, Atimanan, Quezon Miss Philippines Water, Jada Lanes, Mandaluyong City Miss Philippines Ecotourism, Alyssa Mendoza, Phil Melbourne Australia Special Awards, Eco Angel Award, Laika Chambulag Nalagasca, Lalo, Cagayan Darling of the Press, Roxanne Baeyens, Baguio City Eco Video Award, Roxanne Baeyens, Baguio City Hana Shampoo Award, Shane Torms, Atimanan, Quezon. Roxanne will represent the Philippines in the Miss Earth pageant, which has yet to announce a finals date. The 15-year-old girl was slain by riding in tandem killers on Thursday night, July 2, after accusing one of the cops of molesting her. Two cops were detained and accused of being behind the killing of the 15-year-old girl in Ilocos Sur, who was shot dead after filing a molestation complaint with the police. In a statement, the Philippine National Police (PNP) announced on Sunday, July 5, that the Ilocos Sur Provincial Police Office filed murder complaints against Staff Sergeant Randy Ramos and Staff Sergeant Marawi Torda on Friday, July 3. They have no mercy, they have no heart, they are worthless cops, said PNP Chief General Archie Gambo in the statement. What did they allegedly do? A 15-year-old girl was shot dead by motorcycle-riding gunmen in Cabigao, Ilocos Sur, on Thursday night, July 2, after filing a molestation complaint with the Cabigao Town Police Station against Torda. In a phone interview with Rappler, Ilocos Sur Police Chief Colonel Ronald Tagao said they still do not know whether the cops themselves shot the girl dead, but they believe that the two were involved in the murder in some way. It is still up for investigation, he said. Ramos, meanwhile, is also facing a rape complaint lodged by the murdered girl's 18-year-old cousin. Citing Cabigao cops, the PNP said the two girls were sexually harassed by the cops after they were arrested for violating curfew. The 15-year-old girl managed to escape and file a complaint before she was killed. As of Sunday, the two cops were detained at the Ilocos Regional Police Office at Camp Florendo in San Fernando City, La Union. The Department of Labor and Employment hopes to acquire billions of pesos more in funding to provide assistance to the growing number of overseas Filipino workers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. As of July 4, the agency's overseas offices along with the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration have recorded over 551,000 applications for assistance from land-based and sea-based workers, said DOLE Secretary Sylvester Bell. These workers are either still in their respective host countries or have returned to the Philippines. The fund released to us is fast depleting. So far, our offices approved the requests of 224,756 OFWs, 128,348 of whom are still locked down or stranded in their countries of work, he said. The government had given DOLE plus or minus 2.5 billion in 2 tranches to fund its program About Kamayang Pagchulong, or CAP, which provides OFWs displaced by the pandemic an emergency cash aid of $200 or plus or minus 10,000 to help them cope with the crisis. Over 188,000 out of the 250,000 expected beneficiaries of the program have already received financial assistance from DOLE as of Saturday. This amounts to some plus or minus 1.927 billion, the agency said. Of the workers who have already gotten aid, more than 105,000 workers are on site, while the rest have already made their way back to the Philippines. Meanwhile, the agency still has to pay out financial aid to over 56,000 beneficiaries, it added. Provided additional funding, the CAP will be able to assist to nearly 500,000 OFWs provided additional funding, Bello added. The labor chief likewise expressed optimism about President Rodrigo Duterte granting the additional funding for a CAP, saying OFWs are dear to him, and that he will immediately extend help to them. Malacanang will leave the fate of the newly signed anti-terror law up to the Supreme Court. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque on Sunday said the palace will follow whatever the ruling of the High Court will be on the petitions filed that challenge the constitutionality of the new law. The palace will leave it to the South Carolina to decide on these petitions, and will abide by whatever the ruling is, he said in a statement. President Rodrigo Duterte has signed into law the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, despite strong opposition from diverse groups and individuals, warning of possible violations of civil and political rights, and the Constitution itself. A group of lawyers and educators is asking the Supreme Court to stop the enforcement of the newly signed measure, saying it contained provisions that were repugnant to the Constitution. The Calleja law firm, led by lawyer Howard Howie Calleja, said the group filed a petition for certiorari and prohibition, with urgent prayer for the issuance of a temporary and writ of preliminary injunction and/or other injunctive remedies against the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020.